Hey y'all, welcome back to the Good Ground Podcast. If you were a returning guest, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. This is where we ground ourselves in the truth of God's word as we navigate the lies of culture. I am your host, Kevin. Some of you may know me on Instagram as KingCat 2.0. Now, let's just dive into this, right? So Laura Lynn, the Unction, Pastor Ray, in Ohio for Freedom, and Jonathan are at the NRB. I'm going to explain what the NRB Convention is in a second. But Ohio for Freedom, Laura Lynn, and Pastor Ray get kicked out of the NRB Convention after confronting Rachel. Now I'm just going to play and we're going to dive into this.
Everybody, we've just had some fun at the NRB, National Religious Broadcasters. Everybody shows up and, we saw Jonathan's sister and Shannon Kelly.
Hey, Shannon, are you the tracker guy?
Hi.
Not really a second.
How are you?
How are you? Give me a hug, buddy. It's good to see you.
How are you?
I'm glad you're okay, man. Okay.
He's so fake. These people are so fake.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Yeah.
Pastor Leach.
So this is
It's good to put a face with a person.
So this is the guy that put a tracker in my car.
That's the one with the tracker.
Yep.
How are you doing?
Showed up at my house in the bulletproof vest and the gun.
That's amazing.
That's called
Mr.
uniform.
Shannon Kelly.
That's amazing.
So we have a plain clothes and we have
Talk
uniforms.
to everyone but
Wow.
me.
That's
You never reached out to me.
talk?
I would love it. You want to come on the show? I definitely don't want to.
Sir, we wear those at work.
I would appreciate
There's our
it if you
standard
wanted to
security
film.
uniform.
We're going to film.
Okay.
That's the truth, right?
Try the Well, if y'all have any questions, please come up. You'll see our actual uniforms. It's nowhere near the fable that has been told. But that's all right.
Yeah. All right.
You'll give me a chance. Thank you.
Yeah.
Why don't you own an apartment building? And I'm serious right now. Let me show you a path that could change your...
So what did you say to Shannon?
Now,
I said,
there's so much to say. For one, what is the NRB convention, right? So as we can see in this video, Rachel Lamb, prominent figure at Daystar television network, is seen attending the NRB, which is the National Religious Broadcasting Convention. So the NRB convention is an annual gathering that brings together Christian communicators, broadcasters, media professionals, networks, where they gather, they network together, they share resources, they discuss pressing issues. I don't think there's any other pressing issue besides what's going on at Daystar, but where they discuss pressing issues within the church, within faith media industry. But as we can see here, they don't just stumble upon Rachel, they stumble upon Shannon. He is the security guard who put the tracker in the back of Jonathan's vehicle. Right? They ran into him. I believe they also ran into, still Steve Wilhite at one point. But Rachel, if you're new to this entire thing, if you just stumbled upon me, if you just found me from previous videos, let me reintroduce to you what's going on here. Rachel Lamb Brown is the daughter of Daystar's co-founders Marcus and Joni Lamb, right? She plays a significant role to the network, both on screen and behind the scenes, right? She contributes to its programming and its outreach efforts. Now, if you're new to what's going on with the church, with Daystar and the scandal, etc., recently Daystar has been involved in a series of controversies, actually. Jonathan and Susie Lamb, you see Jonathan here on the screen. Jonathan, as you can see on the screen here, is Rachel's brother. Jonathan and his wife Susie, Rachel's sister-in-law, have accused Marcus and Joni of covering up the sexual abuse of their young daughter by a family member that is currently employed at Daystar. And that's Rachel's husband. I'm just gonna be straight. I'll be straight with you. I don't see any need to hide him. Right? She might want to hide him. I ain't gonna do that. Now, when there's a child in the mix. Now, these allegations have led to internal strife within the Lamb family and has cast a shadow over the network's reputation, which is not looking good, because as I'll get to, I also covered in a previous episode, and I'll get to as we continue, where over 19 programmers that were on Daystar's network have left. They have exit stage left, proverbially speaking. Rachel's presence at this convention, I'm gonna get into her personality as I carry on with this, right? Because her presence at the convention is just mind-boggling to me. Amidst the turmoil with her brother, her sister-in-law, her niece, and her mother, and her husband, it raises questions about the network's response to the scandal and its efforts to maintain its public relations. Now, during the NRB convention, I'm going to skip through because I'm so happy they recorded this, because I don't think anyone would have believed it. But during the convention, a little incident occurred with Julie, Laura Lynn and Ray Curry and Ohio for Freedom, known for their investigative journalism, commentary on what's going on with Daystar and other ministries, not just Daystar, but other ministries as well. They were confronted and they were treated very unjustly here at the event. Now, I'm going to go through this and you're going to hear them express specific details of the confrontation. Now, as you hear, I want just kind of lay the groundwork to help you understand why this is concerning for them. But this is a Christian event. The NRB is a Christian event. I want to kind of hone in on that. It's called the National Religious Broadcasters Convention. So it's kind of concerning when you're at a religious event and you're treated rather unjustly. You're going to see, I'll play some clips. I'll just kind of play a couple clips and then kind of, because I really want to round off with Rachel, who's been all over social media, been very loud since this happened. She was in my DMs when this first happened on Instagram. And I might be new to YouTube, but I'm not new to social media. I've been around on social media for quite some time. And I've interacted with Rachel. I should probably show some receipts here. Because when this first dropped, she was tagging me and DMing me here and there. And it's like, where is your head? It's just like, how out of touch can you possibly be with the things pertaining around you? And I would suspect, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm going to try and analyze her personality at the end of this, because it's just kind of sickening to me. But this is, like I said, it's concerning what happened to them for several reasons, right? For one, it's the suppression of free speech. Journalists, commentators play a very crucial role in holding organizations accountable, in holding the churches accountable, right? Especially if these journalists and commentators are part of the body of Christ. So it's not like we're talking about outside sources, right? Secular sources, secular journalists and commentators. No, we're talking about believers, Christian journalists and Christian commentators. Confronting or silencing them undermines the principle of transparency and truth, which is, last time I checked, the one who we serve, worship, lift our hands up in praise, and give glory and honor to. He calls himself truth. Jesus calls himself the way, the truth, and the life. The second issue why this is concerning is because the complete lack of accountability. So instead of addressing the allegations head on, confronting critics can be perceived as an attempt to deflect attention and avoid responsibility. And lastly, of course, is damage to credibility, right? Because such actions like what happened to them, what happened to Laura and Pastor Ray and Ohio for Freedom, such actions can erode public trust. And not only in the individuals involved, but also in the broader organization that they represent, the church. So I want to play a couple clips here because it's just amazing what they explain happened to them when they were there. So for one, the Unction gets kicked out.
And Kelly were standing to the side, and I thought I would just let Rachel know that if indeed she wanted to...
Laura Lynn actually talks to Rachel a second time, right? Because as you saw in the earlier clip, she approached her the first time and she asks, hey, well, do you want to come on my show? And Rachel clearly says, no, I don't want to. The desire for truth is not there. The desire to have truth exposed is not there. The desire to run and conceal, oh yeah, that's definitely there though. But you'll hear Laura Lynn explain that.
Speak with me off camera, like she said she did, that I would be willing to do that. And so I approached her gently and just let her know that, to which Shannon Kelly then was the complete opposite.
Who's this chick on the side? Is that Rachel's friend? Like, why is she there? That's got to be Rachel's friend. What is her name? I'll do my own homework. I'll find out.
Of what we had seen beforehand. There was no hugs. There was just anger being hurled at me. And all of a sudden, 2 security guards stepped in.
So we're going to be professional and polite, Christian.
The Daystar
what she did
mom.
just now, okay? Thank you.
They are not happy that this is being recorded. You can see on their faces. Look at her friend's face. Hyper concerned at Rachel. Oh, man. And of course, the 2 security guards are trying to do damage control, try to get them out. And they do get kicked out.
So they'll all come out.
You good? Yeah. And not much else. There we go.
Excuse me, sir. Thank you.
Oh, is this a copy? Copy
In an unbelievable move, in spite of the fact that it was myself and Rachel that were having a discussion, and it was me telling Shannon Kelly that he's basically not the boss of the world just because he knows how to deliver papers with a gun to somebody's home and put trackers on their car. In any case, I digress. The security guards of NRB came and took our brother, Pastor Ray Curry, from the Unction, and they let him know that he would need to be escorted out. And that...
I don't want to say it's racist, right? I don't want to call the race card. But it's just kind of suspicious that the only black guy in the group gets kicked out. I'm just saying. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't want to say that that's the reason, but you grab the one black guy and say, you know, it's time to go. All right. Okay. Okay.
That put all of us in a very bad way.
They're literally picking on Unction and making him leave. When Rachel came up to me earlier, I was just saying, Rachel, if you want to talk privately, you let me know.
Yeah. See, Laura acknowledges too. It's kind of weird, right? It's kind of weird. it's kind of weird. You grab the black guy, and you're like, listen, sir, we got to go. You got to go. You're disturbing the peace. You're disturbing the peace, sir. Now, I kind of want to skip because there's a lot that happened also after that. But I want to skip to the 20-minute mark where Laura Lynn starts to talk about Rachel. And that's kind of what I want to get. I want to get into the perspective of Rachel because clearly, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, right? There's something going on with her. And if you've heard the stories, if you've heard Laura Lynn kind of cover other whistleblowers who kind of had interactions with Rachel, she's not, personality-wise, does not seem to be the kindest individual in the group. Probably not the brightest either. Probably suffers from covert narcissism. I'll cover that. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but let's hear Laura Lynn explain.
Wanted to talk away from the cameras, and she kind of not sure, but then she wanted to talk away from the cameras, and she kind of pulled me. She wanted to speak to me off camera. I said sure, so I walk on over there, and you know, I said, listen, there's a problem because there's a letter that was written by JW and Rebecca, and in this letter it talks about the very strong feelings that JW had regarding Pete. And I said, this is an important. Then now Rachel shocked me at this morning. This is shocking. She says there's no letter. I'm like,
she straight up lies.
There's a letter. Miss Denise Boggs got the letter. I've had it confirmed from Miss Denise Boggs and Jonathan. So Rachel is now telling me there's no letter. It's all lies. Okay, I know there's a letter. I called Jonathan. Well, we have a witness to the letter right here. I called Jonathan over. Jonathan just says to Rachel, I mean, here's brother and sister, haven't talked for a long time, been a real tough family situation, but he says, he looks her in the eye. Jonathan says, you know how Jonathan is, nice as possible. Jonathan says that JW read this letter to him. It was an impassioned letter regarding Pete, and there is a letter. So Rachel's not in... she's just not in reality of the facts.
In total denial.
In total denial.
And this is kind of what struck me, right? Now, while I can't formally diagnose Rachel Lamb without, professional psychological evaluation, we can certainly analyze her behavior, right? Her response, public actions related to the entire scandal with her brother, her sister-in-law, her niece, her husband. Right? We can use some type of psychological framework based on what we know. Available reports, observations, several patterns that stand out. That suggests traits commonly associated with narcissistic and manipulative behavior. She shows every narcissistic trait. For one, defensiveness and image control, right? Clear patterns, like instead of addressing the allegations directly, what does she do? She appears to be focused on preserving Daystar's image, protecting herself, Joni, rather than seeking justice for her niece. What's a narcissistic trait of that? Image obsession, obsessed with her image, right? Narcissists often prioritize how they're perceived over, moral accountability. Their image is much more important than doing what's right or standing for what's right. Then there's defensiveness when criticized, rather than transparency. The response is often, intimidation, lawsuits, deflection. There's the failure to acknowledge any type of harm. And, Rachel has not publicly shown concern for the victim, and the victim being her niece, which indicates a huge lack of empathy. Which leads to the second trait of like a covert narcissism or a covert manipulator, which is emotional manipulation and just straight up gaslighting. And through this scenario, like through this explanation, you'll see this show up with not just Rachel, but a lot of church leaders, a lot of people in church. Some of you might actually know a covert narcissist like Rachel. In my humble opinion, I think she's a covert narcissist, right? But you have to deal with emotional manipulation, gaslighting, right? And patterns like that. There's like allegations suggest that Daystar leadership, including Rachel here in the scenario that Laura Lynn is explaining, has downplayed, dismissed, or just straight up reframed the accusations in ways that make the accusers, Jonathan and Susie in this case, seem like they're the problem. Traits of gaslighting would be considered like shifting blame. So like instead of accountability, you know, the response is often turning the focus on Jonathan and Susie as the disloyal family members, instead of actually blaming the actual problem, the actual individuals who caused the problem. And then there's rewriting the narratives, right? So any exposure of the truth has been met with attempts to silence critics, kick them out of certain venues when things get uncomfortable, rather than directly refuting claims. Laura invited her on her show, face to face, vis-a-vis. Looked her in her eyes, said, "Hey, I would love to have you on the show so you can tell your side of the story." "No, I don't want to be on your show." If you had nothing to hide, you'd be able to bring evidence and clear it up right then and there. No, it's not what someone who has the truth would want to do. You'd want to clear things up, right? Not Rachel. But then you have emotional coercion, right? Pressuring family members to stay silent while using spiritualized language to manipulate public perception. We see Jonathan and Susie had to deal with that a lot. The spiritualized language: submit, submit, submit. Do not touch God's anointed. Submit, submit, submit. And then, of course, you have the lack of empathy and complete emotional disconnect, which we've seen with Rachel since day one with this entire scenario. She attends the NRB convention. This is why I say it is just so weird with someone like her. Attends the convention as if nothing's happening. Business as usual, right? While Daystar faces massive accusations and a departure of over 18 major ministries and ministers have left. And Laura explains in a bit how there are many people who are talking behind the scenes, other programmers who are talking behind the scenes, who are like, "Yeah, this is a bit much. Like, we don't know what to do. Like, we want to leave." And then, like I said, the lack of empathy, which has clear narcissistic traits. No public acknowledgement of abuse allegations, none. Right? If she cared about transparency, she would call for independent investigators, right? Investigations, rather than engage in PR controls, getting on Instagram, getting on Twitter, you know, the Department of Church Accountability and all these other, like, it's just ridiculous at this point. But then also it's like this desire to appear that they're above the accusations, that she's above it, right? Her actions suggest she has completely detached herself from reality, like they were just saying. Completely detached from reality of what's actually happening, possibly indicating superiority complex. She thinks she's above everybody, including her brother. Which kind of leads to the real root of the problem with someone with a personality disorder like this, and that is the fear of losing power and control, which is also a trait of someone who has a very fragile ego. Her ego is very fragile. Rachel, along with Joni, allegedly trying to keep the scandal quiet rather than opening up to accountability, suggests deep insecurity about losing their influence. So control threats, or should I say control traits, would be like what we're dealing with litigation threats, right? Instead of allowing truth to unfold, they're intimidating YouTubers, podcasters, journalists, calling them names. Those are control traits, right? Refusing transparency. I said this before, they can easily clear their names. Daystar can easily be cleared by allowing an independent investigation. You have nothing to hide? Let's do an independent investigation. Third-party investigation. Let's do it. But they aren't. So, could Rachel be a narcissist? Could Joni be a narcissist? I'm not a psychologist. I haven't analyzed them. I haven't evaluated them. If any of you are licensed psychologists and you've dealt with individuals such as them, drop down in my comments. Let me know. Can they be classified as such if they were evaluated based off your prior experience? I would love to know. I would love to know. I would love to talk to any clinical psychologist. I would really love to know. But could Rachel in this scenario be a narcissist? Possible, for everything we talked about just now, possible narcissistic traits that we have observed. Image obsession, public perception control, fear of losing control, lack of emotional empathy for victims, and in this case, her niece, her brother, her sister-in-law, defensiveness, gaslighting tactics, controlling the narrative to maintain said power. What do you think? Right? I can't confirm without a diagnosis. I'm not a practicing or licensed psychologist. But whether these traits are full-blown narcissistic personality disorder, like NPD, or just self-preserving behaviors due to pressure, whether she is consciously manipulative or subconsciously conditioned by her upbringing at Daystar, we can't confirm. But I can take an educated guess and say that if I were to put her beside everything I kind of just narrowed down and the actual clinical definition of someone who has NPD, let's just say I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised, not one bit. Now, I want to carry on. I want to cover some more stuff that they had actually talked about, because it was just, it was just too good. But here, I think it's around the 29-minute mark where they actually talk about Ray getting kicked out for the possibility of just because he was the one black guy there. It's just weird and it's just odd.
I want to invite you, if you'd like to make a decision to not let this be the end. Let this be.
I'm not going to do that. I guess he shared it with Marcus Rogers. We understand it to be screenshots of them being at family events together. Before Jonathan heard that Pete was not exonerated, unlike Rachel reported to Marcus and Joni, no exoneration. Nobody knew this. When Jonathan heard that, that was the decision, like, okay, we're back to square one, because we thought there was a problem. Yeah. There's evidence of a problem. So what happens is, in between that time, they're going to family events.
Right.
They're having baby showers. They're having kids'
trying
birthdays.
to continue on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Until they found out there was no exoneration.
So Rachel's like, we've got evidence. We've got evidence. We're like, that we are in the evidence business.
Exactly.
We are putting our evidence out. We're there.
Let me bring this back to the events.
Rachel's just a gaslighter. I'm sorry. She is. She's a gaslighter. We've got evidence. Okay, present it. Let's do a third-party investigation like I kind of just talked about just now. Let's do it. They don't want to do it. So she's just talking big for no reason at all.
So just for a minute. So in the first exchange, Shannon Kelly, let's just be honest, was condescending and just blatantly racist. I said at the time, if you wrote that...
See, the one black guy that's there, hey, we got to kick him out. Why? It's just so odd. The one black guy that's there, let's kick him out.
That into a script for a show. In 2025, the editors would say, we can't do that.
Right.
That's completely, it's
ridiculous.
ridiculous. But folks.
And someone wrote in the comments, watch Flashpoint from NRB. I think Flashpoint is Kenneth Copeland's, his kind of like version of the news from a Christian perspective. They were at NRB. There were a lot of other, I think, faith networks at NRB as well yesterday. I have to find out who. And OVTV, which is Hank and Brenda Kuhneman. Crazy that this all went down to NRB of all places. Listen, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna carry on with the video. I do not watch or trust any ministry anymore that is not trying to stand for the truth with this issue that's going on at Daystar. It's too big of an issue. I do not listen or watch any minister or ministry, and I would advise you to do the same, that is still supporting Mike Bickle, still supporting IHOP, and also at this point, Dr. Michael Brown. But I'll have to do a whole another video on Dr. Michael Brown as well, because it is just completely disingenuous and just straight up wicked. So if these other ministries aren't even so much as talking about what's going on, stop sending them money, stop supporting them, stop watching them. Okay.
It happened, and then later when he and I are just standing there minding our own business while Laura Lynn is having a calm discussion with Rachel, then Mr. Too Tight in his undersized sport coat is, next thing you know, hauling. He didn't go after the gray-haired white guy or the blonde-haired Canadian female.
Or the Gabby girl. Yeah.
So what, and you have to wonder, is it just the racism, or were they, do you think they were baiting you perhaps?
Oh, it felt like a situation of let's see if we can get him to be what we need him to be. In
other words, what he's trying to say is, can we get him to act belligerently? Can we get the one black guy that's here at the convention to act out of character, or act into the character that we assume that most black Christians act out of? That's what he's trying to say without saying it. And there's a strong possibility they probably wanted Ray to act out belligerently. We cannot rule that out. At this point, they got the one black guy that's there, kick him out. I can't rule that out. And I try to be as objective as I possibly can, right? I'm not a black liberal, right? I don't have this victim mentality type crap. But in scenarios like this, I can't, it's hard to argue against. It's hard to argue against. The one black guy that's there, let's kick him out. Why didn't he get Ohio for freedom? Why Ray? You know, so it's like, anywho, I don't want this to be too long. I kind of wanted this to be, I should probably go live. If I get to 10,000 subscribers, I'll go live for the first time. It's just, and I really want to interview Pastor Ray and Ohio for Freedom, and of course Laura Lynn. But it's just, let me skip ahead to hear Laura Lynn kind of explain what happened, and then I'm going to wrap this up with a biblical response, because I think it's very important to just explain what's going on. Why are we seeing this? Everything pertaining to Rachel, Daystar, why we should talk about this, and why I believe that God is really highlighting people talking about these ministers and ministries being exposed, and why we need to talk about it.
And for alleged pedophiles to not be brought to justice when there's a cry for justice. So I'm being walked out. People are saying hi. I told the security guard everything that is going on. he let me know he's a retired police officer, and he goes, well, the cops are coming, so you need to talk to the police, and they're going to give some kind of protective order or something. I said, oh, okay. For what? We didn't do nothing. So I'm walked out, forced in the lobby, and these two security guards, like one of them, I think his name is Scott, he is mean and unwise. He is just such a bad idea for a security guard, right, because he's got no discernment.
No good sense.
If you are given and entrusted with security, you gotta really get it.
Yeah.
And I was trying to explain to them that you got duped today. You got duped by the wrong side.
Yep.
The Daystar Mafia pulled their cards, their big money cards, and you gotta get them out there. They're talking to us. Ooh, they're talking to. They said hi.
Fragile.
You know, get them out. Get them out. Fragile. So now I'm escorted out, forced to give over my badge. Now the police show up. Nicest security guard of the Gaylord. I explained to him the whole thing, that there's an alleged pedophile at Daystar. The Daystar people called us in, and he's like, he couldn't say it. You know what I'm saying? He needed to maintain his position.
Right.
Yeah, so she explains that the police show up and escort them out, right? Now, like I said, I don't want this to be too long. But this entire thing, why this behavior is dangerous, says a lot about where we are today in the body of Christ. Proverbs 21:2 says, every man is right in their own eyes, but the Lord weighs the heart. Rachel, Joni, and all these other ministers as well, right, may think what they're doing is the right thing. But God knows what Rachel and Joni, what their true intentions are. In Ezekiel 34, verse 10, if there's a chapter anyone should read, is this. Because if there's something that I hate is when people take scripture out of context. Oh, don't. We mustn't mess with the Lord's anointed, because he said, don't touch not my anointed. Read Ezekiel 34 and then come back to me. Okay. Yeah. All you don't touch the Lord's anointed degenerates. Because that thinking is not one who has a regenerated mind. It's someone whose mindset is that of a degenerate. Your mind has not been regenerated by the Holy Spirit. So I don't want you to take that as like he's so mean, he's not nice, or he's just calling out names. No, you're by definition a degenerate, because your mind has not been regenerated by the Holy Spirit. Ezekiel 34, the whole chapter is about God in context. God is rebuking his shepherds, and he calls them his enemies because of what they've done to his sheep. He's like, this is what the Lord has said. I'm against the shepherds and will hold them accountable for my flock. You know, those who use religion for personal power while ignoring the abused, you're going to face judgment. And now there's a popular phrase now that's going around. Oh, you know, you're accusers of the brethren. How stupid. How stupid does one have to be? It is stupid, yeah. I'm an accuser of the brethren by calling the shepherds to account? No, sir, you're a wolf. We have a lot of wolves in the church. God's going to judge you. In Matthew 23, Jesus says, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. We have a lot of hypocrites with mics in their hands. He's like, you're like whitewashed tombs. You look beautiful on the outside. Your churches look nice, vibrant, big, exuberant. But on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones. Projecting righteousness while covering sin is a hallmark of false leadership. And it's not just Daystar. It's all these ministries that are in cahoots with Daystar, this web of cabal Christian ministry. So finally, what I really want to say, because this video is already long, but I hope you stay to the end. Rachel Lamb's actions are highly suspicious. If you're new to this, I just want to introduce you. It is highly suspicious. Whether or not she's a full-blown narcissist, her behavior raises serious concerns about her own moral integrity. She appears more concerned with protecting Daystar's image, protecting her image, than protecting the victim, protecting her niece. And the refusal to engage in transparency, threats against YouTubers, threats against podcasters, threats to anyone brave enough to talk about the things that the network and yourself, Rachel, have been hiding. The emotional manipulation, the gaslighting, all suggest a desperate attempt to control the fallout. Y'all, truth doesn't need PR control. It stands on its own. And if Rachel had nothing to hide, Joni had nothing to hide, they would openly embrace accountability. So I'm gonna end it with this. If you're listening to ministries that are not calling for accountability with Daystar and other pastors and leaders who are being exposed right now, if you're listening to them, I suggest you don't. If you're giving money to them, I suggest you stop. Because God will also hold you accountable because you're funding and supporting the deception. Don't think you're going to get off scotch-free, because you're not. It's his church, and he will have her spotless and without blame in the end. He will have his way. His will be done. Anyways, y'all get in my comments. Let me know what you think. And shout out to Pastor Ray, Laura Lynn, and Ohio for Freedom, and Jonathan, who happened to be there. I can't imagine how he would have felt emotionally seeing his sister, his own sister, who has been literally fighting against him while he's been fighting for his family and his daughter. Straight bananas. Anyways, y'all get in my comments. Let me know what you think. And we will push back the darkness another day. Stay grounded in his word and let nothing move you. Love y'all. Peace.